The get in low, then kill them on extra strategy is a tactic used by some contractors. The goal is to secure a low initial bid and then significantly increase profits by charging excessively for unforeseen expenses or necessary additions to the project. The method involves several steps. Firstly, the contractor submits a bid that is significantly lower than competitors. This low bid often represents a bare-bones solution, cutting corners or omitting necessary components to achieve the lowest possible price. Secondly, by offering the lowest price, the contractor wins the bid and secures the job. Thirdly, once the contract is awarded, the contractor identifies additional work or materials that were not covered in the initial bid. These can be genuine oversights or deliberately omitted items. Fourthly, the contractor charges exorbitant prices for these unforeseen extras. They leverage the fact that the client is already committed to the project and is unlikely to terminate the contract and start over with a new contractor. Fifthly, by inflating the cost of these extras, the contractor profits greatly, often exceeding what they would have made with a fair initial bid. This practice is widely considered unethical for several reasons. It misleads clients about the true total cost of the project from the outset. It often involves failing to disclose potential expenses that the contractor is aware of. It takes advantage of clients who may feel they have no other option but to pay the inflated extra charges once the project is underway. To deal with this problem, here are some suggestions. Firstly, educate clients. Explain the risks associated with blindly accepting the lowest bid. Emphasize that a significantly low bid often indicates compromised quality, hidden costs, or an incomplete project scope. Explain the potential consequences of unforeseen expenses and the importance of understanding the full scope of work before signing a contract. Secondly, meticulously document everything. Maintain detailed written records of all communications, agreements, and changes to the scope of work. This documentation serves as a valuable reference point in case of disputes and provides a clear audit trail of all project activities. Thirdly, establish partnerships with reputable suppliers. Work with vendors who are known for fair pricing, reliable products, and ethical business practices. This helps to ensure that you are not overpaying for materials and that you are receiving high-quality products. Fourthly, offer value-added services. Differentiate yourself from competitors by providing additional benefits that go beyond the bare minimum. This could include extended warranties, proactive maintenance, or specialized expertise. Fifthly, specialize in a niche market. Focus on a specific area of expertise where you can provide exceptional service and command a premium price. This allows you to avoid competing solely on price and to attract clients who value quality and expertise. Finally, be prepared to walk away. If a client insists on accepting a bid that you know is not realistic or feasible, be willing to decline the job. Maintaining your integrity and reputation is more valuable than securing a project that will ultimately lead to ethical compromises. As an example of how lowballing can be an issue, consider the scenario involving the school bus garage. The school has a 480/277 volt, 400 amp service and needs to add 50 receptacles for bus engine block heaters, each drawing 1200 watts at 120 volts. An honest assessment would reveal the need for adequate panel capacity and proper circuit design to handle this load safely and efficiently. A contractor who proposes to do this with a single 200 amp, 120/208 volt panel is likely cutting corners and not providing a code-compliant solution. Here's a more detailed look at why that solution is inadequate. Firstly, let's calculate the total ampacity required for the engine block heaters. Each heater draws 1200 watts at 120 volts, so the current draw per heater is 1200 watts divided by 120 volts, which equals 10 amps. With 50 heaters, the total current draw is 50 heaters times 10 amps per heater, which equals 500 amps. Secondly, the 200 amp panel, even at 120/208 volts, is insufficient to handle a continuous load of 500 amps. Electrical codes typically require that overcurrent protection be sized at no more than 80% of the panel's rated capacity for continuous loads. This means a 200 amp panel can only handle a maximum continuous load of 160 amps. The actual load of 500 amps is far greater than this limit. Thirdly, voltage drop is another critical factor. With 500 amps of current flowing through the circuits, there will be a significant voltage drop, especially over long distances. This can lead to the heaters not operating properly and potentially damaging them. Furthermore, excessive voltage drop can cause the circuit breakers to trip, interrupting power to the heaters. Fourthly, the existing 480/277 volt service needs to be stepped down to 120/208 volts to supply the receptacles. This requires the installation of a transformer, which adds to the cost and complexity of the project. The size and capacity of the transformer must be carefully selected to handle the load of the engine block heaters. Fifthly, proper wiring and conduit are essential to ensure the safe and reliable distribution of power to the receptacles. The wiring must be sized according to the ampacity of the circuits and the applicable electrical codes. The conduit must be properly installed and grounded to protect the wiring from damage and to prevent electrical shock hazards. Sixthly, the receptacles themselves must be of a suitable type for outdoor use and must be properly grounded. Ground fault circuit interrupter protection is also recommended to protect against electrical shock hazards. Finally, permitting an inspection are necessary to ensure that the electrical work is performed in accordance with applicable codes and regulations. A qualified electrical inspector will review the plans and inspect the installation to verify that it meets all requirements. Given these considerations, it is clear that a single 200 amp panel is not adequate for this application. A more appropriate solution would involve upgrading the existing service, installing a larger panel or multiple panels, and using appropriately sized wiring and conduit. The contractor's low bid likely does not account for these necessary upgrades, which is why it is significantly lower than other bids. By understanding these technical aspects, you can better educate clients about the risks of accepting low bids and the potential consequences of cutting corners. Explain that a seemingly small difference in price can lead to significant problems down the road. Emphasize the importance of hiring a qualified and experienced contractor who will provide a safe and reliable electrical system. Additionally, providing a detailed and transparent quote that clearly outlines the scope of work, materials, and labor can further build trust with potential clients. This approach demonstrates your commitment to quality and ethical business practices. It also allows clients to make an informed decision based on the value they are receiving rather than solely on price. Remember, competing ethically and providing value to clients is a long-term strategy that will ultimately lead to success. While it may be tempting to cut corners or engage in unethical practices to win bids, it is important to maintain your integrity and focus on providing high-quality work. By doing so, you will build a reputation for honesty and reliability, which will attract clients who value those qualities. The electrical installation for the bus engine heaters involves several critical calculations and code considerations. Let's delve into some of these in more detail. Firstly, load calculations are essential to determine the total demand on the electrical system. As previously mentioned, each engine block heater draws 1200 watts at 120 volts, which equates to 10 amps. With 50 heaters, the total connected load is 500 amps. However, it is unlikely that all 50 heaters will be operating simultaneously. Therefore, it is necessary to apply a demand factor to account for the non-simultaneous operation of the heaters. The specific demand factor will depend on the usage patterns and the requirements of the local electrical code. For example, the NEC National Electrical Code may allow for a demand factor of 75% for electric vehicle supply equipment, which could be applicable in this case. Applying a 75% demand factor to the 500 amp connected load results in a demand load of 375 amps. Secondly, conductor sizing is crucial to ensure that the wiring can safely carry the calculated load without overheating or causing excessive voltage drop. The NEC provides tables that specify the ampacity of different types of conductors based on their size, insulation type, and installation conditions. For example, Table 310.15b16 of the NEC lists the allowable ampacities of insulated conductors rated up to 2000 volts. The conductor size must be selected such that its ampacity is equal to or greater than the calculated load. In this case, with a demand load of 375 amps, multiple conductors or larger conductors in parallel may be required to meet the ampacity requirements. Thirdly, overcurrent protection is necessary to protect the wiring and equipment from damage due to overloads or short circuits. Circuit breakers or fuses are typically used for overcurrent protection. The size of the overcurrent protection device must be selected such that it is less than or equal to the ampacity of the conductors it is protecting. The NEC also provides guidelines for the selection of overcurrent protection devices, including specific requirements for motor circuits and other types of equipment. Fourthly, grounding and bonding are essential to ensure the safety of the electrical system and to prevent electrical shock hazards. Grounding involves connecting the electrical system to the earth, which provides a low impedance path for fault current to flow back to the source. Bonding involves connecting all metal parts of the electrical system together to create an equipotential plane. The NEC provides detailed requirements for grounding and bonding, including specific requirements for electrode systems, grounding conductors, and bonding jumpers. Fifthly, voltage drop must be considered to ensure that the voltage at the receptacles is within acceptable limits. Excessive voltage drop can cause equipment to malfunction or operate inefficiently. The NEC recommends that the voltage drop on feeder circuits should not exceed 3% and the voltage drop on branch circuits should not exceed 5%. Voltage drop can be calculated using Ohm's law and the resistance of the conductors. The conductor size can be increased to reduce voltage drop. Sixthly, coordination studies are often performed to ensure that the overcurrent protection devices are properly coordinated. Coordination studies involve analyzing the time current characteristics of the overcurrent protection devices to ensure that they will trip in the correct sequence in the event of a fault. This helps to minimize the extent of the outage and to prevent damage to equipment. Finally, arc flash hazard analysis is becoming increasingly important to protect electrical workers from the hazards of arc flash events. Arc flash events can occur when there is a short circuit or fault in the electrical system, resulting in a sudden release of energy in the form of heat and light. Arc flash hazard analysis involves calculating the incident energy and the arc flash boundary for different equipment configurations. This information is used to select appropriate personal protective equipment for electrical workers. In summary, designing an electrical system for 50-engine block heaters requires careful consideration of load calculations, conductor sizing, overcurrent protection, grounding and bonding, voltage drop, coordination studies, and arc flash hazard analysis. A qualified electrical engineer or electrician should be consulted to ensure that the system is designed and installed in accordance with all applicable codes and regulations. When dealing with contractors who employ the get-in-low, then kill them on extras strategy, it's important to be proactive and informed. Here are some additional strategies to mitigate the risk. Firstly, obtain multiple bids from different contractors. Comparing bids from multiple contractors will give you a better understanding of the fair market price for the project. Be wary of bids that are significantly lower than the others, as this may be a red flag for the get-in-low tactic. Secondly, carefully review the scope of work in each bid. Make sure that the scope of work is clearly defined and includes all necessary components of the project. Ask contractors to provide detailed breakdowns of their bids, including the cost of materials, labor, and other expenses. Thirdly, ask contractors about potential unforeseen expenses. Inquire about the types of unforeseen expenses that could arise during the project and how they would be handled. Ask contractors to provide examples of past projects where unforeseen expenses occurred and how they were resolved. Fourthly, check contractors' references and licenses. Verify that the contractors are properly licensed and insured. Check their references to see if they have a history of ethical and reliable business practices. Fifthly, negotiate the contract carefully. Make sure that the contract clearly defines the scope of work, the payment terms, and the process for handling change orders. Include a clause that requires the contractor to obtain your written approval before proceeding with any work that is not included in the original scope of work. Sixthly, monitor the project closely. Regularly inspect the work to ensure that it is being performed according to the contract and the applicable codes and regulations. Communicate regularly with the contractor to address any concerns or questions that may arise. Seventhly, document all communications and agreements. Keep written records of all communications with the contractor, including emails, phone calls, and meetings. Maintain copies of all contracts, change orders, and invoices. Eighthly, be prepared to walk away if necessary. If you suspect that the contractor is engaging in unethical or fraudulent practices, be prepared to terminate the contract. Consult with an attorney to understand your rights and obligations. Finally, consider using a construction manager or owner's representative. The construction manager or owner's representative can act as your advocate and help you to navigate the construction process. They can review bids, negotiate contracts, monitor the project, and resolve disputes. Remember, the key to avoiding the get in low, then kill them on extra strategy is to be informed, proactive, and vigilant. By taking these steps, you can protect yourself from unethical contractors and ensure that your project is completed successfully. When evaluating bids, pay close attention to the allowances included in the proposals. Allowances are sums of money set aside for specific items or tasks where the final cost is not yet known. Unscrupulous contractors may deliberately underestimate allowances to lower the initial bid, knowing that they can later inflate the actual cost. For example, allowance for lighting fixtures may be set unrealistically low, requiring you to pay significantly more when the actual fixtures are selected. Scrutinize the allowances to ensure that they are reasonable and realistic. Ask the contractors to provide detailed explanations of how the allowances were calculated and what they cover. Consider researching the typical costs of the items or tasks covered by the allowances to verify that the amounts are accurate. If you have concerns about the allowances, negotiate with the contractors to increase them or to convert them to fixed prices based on specific selections. Requesting a list of the suppliers can allow the client to get an understanding of the type of supplies a contractor will use. If the contractor does not want to give the list, it is probably best to stay away.